Hi, everyone. This is Miguel Penna from the Southern Florida Concierge Association. In today's webinar, we have some amazing panelists. We have Ceci from the Ocean Drive Association. We have Gisela from the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau. And we also have Wendy from the Hotel Association. We're going to be talking about July 4th weekend, what's entailed for that. We're talking about passenger payloads, hotel occupancies, what the plan is and the marketing plan is for South Florida moving forward, some great incentives through American Airlines, and much, much more. If you can join us, do so. The show starts now. Hello, and welcome to the SFCA podcast. Our goal is to inspire travel. We want to expose you to what Miami and South Florida has to offer, from Key Biscayne to Coconut Grove, South Beach to Calle Ocho, and everywhere in between. Miami is a vibrant city and offers a wide array of popular attractions and venues. Come join us. Good morning, everyone. Everyone's populating the screens. We're doing a webinar panel. So what means for those of you who don't know what a webinar is versus the last meeting we did last time, we're not going to be able to see the attendees. They will populate. Right now, that number is increasing exponentially as I speak. You'll be able to hear us. You'll be able to see us. You'll be able to ask questions via the typing Q&A on the bottom of your portal. If you're on a computer, if you're on a phone of any sort, if you swipe to your right or left, you'll be able to see that as well. And it is now 11 o'clock by my clock. I respect everyone's time, including my own. So we are going to start. As you see, I'm joined by these three lovely ladies, and we're ready to make it happen. So before I start, a belated Father's Day to all of you that enjoyed Father's Day. As you know, mothers and fathers are the genesis of everything in this world. And I hope that you, if you are a father, enjoyed your time with your family. If you're not a father, but have a father that is still with us, hope you enjoyed your time with him as well. And if he's in the heavens, I'm sure that he's looking down on you at this very moment. I want to thank our partners, the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, the Greater Miami Hotel Association, as well as the Ocean Drive Association. They have an army of individuals with one thing in mind, and that's bringing Miami back into the forefront of South Florida and making sure that if the decision has to be made of where to go and where to travel, Miami is first and foremost on the top of that list. We've got various different questions that we've already pre-scripted for our panelists. I'm going to introduce our panelists now. We have from the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, the Vice President of Communications and Tourism, Ms. Gisela Marti. From the Greater Miami Hotel Association, the President and Chief Executive Officer, Wendy Kallergis, once again. Hello, Wendy. And we also have the Executive Director of the Ocean Drive Association, Ms. Ceci Velasquez.
Hi.
Hello. So a big round of applause for all of them. Thank you very much for joining us, ladies. And I'm going to give the platform over to Gisela so she can do her presentation on all the facts and figures for the Bureau. Gisela?
Hi, everyone. And first of all, Miguel, thank you so much for allowing us to join the discussion today. So it's a really great opportunity to do this.
Gisela, if you can get the microphone just a little bit closer because we can barely hear. Thank you.
Is this a little better?
Yes.
Okay. So I wanted to just quickly walk you through a couple of things that we've been working on. And sorry, there it goes. Sorry about that. So, obviously early on in March, we launched a series of relief and recovery programs, in essence. As we all know, tourism is really critical to our community. So it was really important for us to just early on begin launching a series of programs. And I just wanted to quickly just with everyone share with them that we are making this presentation available to Miguel. So certainly don't worry about taking too many copious notes because you will be getting a copy of this presentation. But speaking of, overall our recovery in tourism, right? So we look to obviously our airport, and the airport is a critical component of that. And here on the top screen, the top graph gives you a visual of the traffic. So the top portion of it, that orange line, is where we were a year ago. And the blue one is where we are currently. So if you're looking at, for example, around June 19th, you know, our numbers are increasing. So we're very encouraged by that. And currently, just yesterday, I saw the numbers, and we're up to almost 30,000 passengers total. So we're still a ways to go. If you see, you know, versus last year, about little over 120,000. But the positive thing here is day by day, we're seeing growth. So we're encouraged by that. And then the bottom portion of the screen is really the flight. So currently we're a little over 200 flights a day versus, you know, almost 900. So again, we're seeing, you know, this recovery on a day by day. And some of the challenges, as you can expect, you know, at MIA, we have about half of the visitors that come in the traffic is from outside of the United States. So as you're aware, there's a series of restrictions in place, which is really making it very challenging on the international and to really to welcome some of those visitors from outside of the US. So, you know, as we see this, we see that the international recovery will lag a little bit, but because of this issue with many of the restrictions in place. But we're confident that, you know, they'll begin to lift them later on, you know, in the summer, hopefully in the next month or so. So we continue to monitor that and understand that that's a critical component for, you know, our visitor industry. I also wanted to just obviously quickly share a quick update from our port. You know, we have almost little over 6 million cruisers that come into Port Miami every year. And as you're probably aware, mid-March, all the cruise brands suspended operation. And just last Friday, June 19th, CLIA announced that the cruise brands were suspending operation until mid-September. And prior to that, you know, many of the main, you know, operators out of Port Miami had already talked about resuming operations in August and September, but now we're looking obviously at a September and beyond start. So we look forward to that. And I also wanted to share with you a quick update on American Airlines. And as you know, they're our hometown carrier and our hometown airline. And back in June, in early June, June 4th, they began activating and ramping up service from many domestic markets. And they are also have started service from some international markets where they are allowed. So for example, there's already some international service coming in from the Caribbean, which those restrictions have been lifted. So they have a very ambitious plan for their July schedules to continue to add on more domestic markets and international markets, and they're aiming for almost 100 destinations. So we're really, really encouraged by that. And just a quick update as well on American. We have partnered up with them, and this is a program that's going to start next month in July, and it's a stopover program. And in essence, what American is making available is for all travelers that are originating travel in Latin America and the Caribbean that are traveling, you know, to any other US destination, they're making a free stopover in Miami for free on their fare. So we're really encouraged by that. They're making it available for traveling starting July through December of 2021 next year. And all tickets must be purchased by the end of this year, by December 31. So we know this is a great incentive for those traveling that were perhaps maybe not coming to Miami, but it's a way to really leverage some of those millions of passengers to stop over in Miami. And I wanted to just walk you through a very quick update from our hotel performance. As you know, this is really critical for our community. And we watch this on a weekly basis. And I will ask you to look at the last row, the June 7th through 13th. So when looking at that week, the positive here is we're seeing a 2.9% growth in demand, and that's really very important. So we're very encouraged by that. to see that some of the demand is starting to pick up. We're still seeing occupancies at about 20%. The beach, we're showing around a little bit less than that, but also the hotels on the beach just came online on the beginning of June, where perhaps other hotels in the mainland were already open for essential lodgers. But overall, you know, we are seeing positive movement week after week, so we continue to be encouraged. And then as we look, you know, ahead, as we look, for example, at Q3, so if you look at that column, forecasts are looking at occupancy to continue to grow to 35%, and then in Q4 to 55%. So again, very encouraging to see some of this movement. CBRE, which is where we're seeing these projections, we're seeing that every month they're updating with new projections, and it continues to improve and look better as we look to the future. And I wanted to just share with all of you the number of hotel rooms. So right before we went into COVID, we were almost at 60,000 in terms of our inventory. And currently, we're still not completely, all the rooms are online. There's still some hotels on Miami Beach that are scheduled to open in next month. So we're seeing a kind of a slow ramp up of the remaining of that inventory. So currently, we're a little over almost 41,000 rooms, and we're expecting like another 18,000 to come online. So obviously, you know, this is really exciting for us. We've been at this for several weeks now, and in fact, we've launched our Miami Shines recovery campaign. And in essence, you know, we're inviting visitors to come to our destination now that our hotels were open. Prior to June 1st, what we were doing is really, you know, keeping Miami top of mind for all of those travelers that were, you know, having cabin fever and looking where they were going to be traveling. So, you know, as of June 1, we've officially launched our recovery campaign. And really the goal here is to drive, you know, room nights into our destination for both leisure travelers and as well as with meeting planners. So when we're looking at kind of the timing of that, I think last month when Rolando Aedo was here, our CMO and COO, he walked you through some of the timing in those markets. And so in early June, when we've launched our Miami Shines program, you know, we are really targeted the Tri-County area. And then soon after that, we started targeting, you know, some of these drive markets, you know, in Florida and Georgia and other Southeast markets. And already mid-March, we've launched our national campaign because as you saw from the slide at the beginning at MIA, so there are travelers that are coming in on flights as well. And then, you know, further on, and we continue to monitor is we'll activate, you know, some of that international markets at the right time, but we continue to monitor that very closely. And here was just some examples of some of the digital ads as part of our Miami Shines campaign that we were running, you know, locally in our Tri-County area and throughout our drive markets, are really asking, you know, visitors to, you know, some of them are, you know, your dream getaway is just a car ride away. So really playing that up. And then finally, we're also, you know, talking to meeting planners because this is also important. We want them to begin to, you know, book new meetings, and that's important not only at our hotels, but as well as at our convention center. So that's really underway as well. So I invite you to visit our site. It's miamishines.com. That's where we're placing all of our hotel offers. As you know, we've launched our beloved Miami Spice restaurant program earlier this year. We launched it June 1. It's going to last for 4 months. So that's really important to also get visitors and also our locals to go and visit our restaurant. So all of this and all of the attraction offers as well, you're going to find on the miamishines.com page. And what I wanted to just leave you with is if anybody has any questions in the next day or so, or even next week, or soon after that, you know, feel free to drop us an email at customerservice@gmcvb.com. That's an email that we monitor 24/7, and feel free to shoot any questions our way at that email address. So Miguel, I'll turn it over back to you.
Thank you, Gisela. One question that Rosemary had from Red Steakhouse, and it is, how long does the stopover last for with American Airlines, and will it benefit the Miami Beach area?
Absolutely. So the stopover program is lasting. So if you saw, American is making that available for any traveler traveling from July 1 through December 31 of next year. So they can utilize that stopover during that whole period of time. So it's a really a very vast, large period of time. However, American is requiring them to book that offer by December 31 of this year. So in essence, those are found travelers as we see it, because they were not going to come directly to Miami. They were going on, traveling onward to another domestic destination. So we're really leveraging kind of that connection to convert them into a visitor. But great question.
Oh, thank you very much, Gisela, for your presentation. So again, customer service at GMCVB. If you have any questions, it's monitored 24 hours for everyone's look. Let me clear out my screen now. Oops. There we go. Now I have a few questions for you ladies. I'm going to go revert to my questions now. Both mayors are considering a secondary shutdown due to the spike in COVID-19 cases throughout Dade County, Broward, Palm Beach, and throughout Florida. Let's get your feedback on what you think. Is that feasible? Obviously it's not, but do you think it's foreseeable that it will happen, or do we really need to encourage those that do not follow the protocols be held accountable? Start with Ceci.
It's not feasible. I mean, nobody can do business that way. Start, stop, start, stop. Restaurants, they end up with food on their hands. They end up with unemployed staff people. We saw what happened with the curfew. You're open for business till 2 o'clock in the morning. Oh, in 2 hours, we're not going to have a curfew at 9 p.m. So here they just took people off of unemployment, put them to work, and suddenly they have to cut their shifts down because they can't give them 40 hours because of the curfew. So it caused a lot of friction and stress and distress, I think, amongst staff and employers who were in good faith wanting to bring staff back. So you just can't do business that way. I think that the city and the county and the industry needs to do everything possible to help so that doesn't happen. We all need to collaborate to make sure that we don't do that again, that we don't have a shutdown, we don't have a lockdown. I'm hearing there's so many people out there not wearing masks, right? And so we're getting a bad perception. You get the videos and the pictures of all these people walking around the park and the street. But the truth is that you don't have to wear a mask if you're out in public. So there's nothing to enforce, but there is a media perception that people aren't, following the rules, and they're transferring that over to the industry. Well, that's happening in hotels and restaurants. It's not really. The perception is there's a lot of people walking out in the street that aren't wearing masks, and you can't enforce that. But we did see, and we do see, that customer service is a big issue also. People want to congregate. They want to go to a pool. They're vacationing. There's a bunch of people that have gotten together and they haven't seen each other in a long time. Hospitality is intimacy. It's not distancing. It's counterindicative of each other. And it's hard not to allow that to happen, because the epitome of great service is allowing your guest and the customer to always be right and to do what they want and to be happy. So it's really hard to enforce something like that, but we're trying. And I know the restaurants are really requiring a lot of masks all the time, unless you sit down. They've actually refused service to people because people walk in and say, we're not going to wear it, and they have refused service. But it's going to have to get to that. Also, I think we have to be leaders in the industry and make sure that we are setting the example of following all of the protocols. Right? We're the ones that people are going to look to. If I'm doing it, then you're doing it. If I'm not doing it, then why do I have to do it? So culture is the hardest thing to change. I'm sorry if I'm going on a tangent, but culture is the hardest thing to change, and we have to be leaders and do it by example. But closing down a business right now, or stalling it, or that, it will be, people will not recover. Restaurants will not reopen after that. Businesses will not reopen after a second shutdown.
Correct. I don't think we can afford a second shutdown on many different facets. Wendy, I see you're very engaged in the comments, and I'm waiting for you to just go ahead and give your response. Please do so.
I mean, I have to tell you, and I think many of it's been very challenging for our hotels, and everything that Ceci said about, layoffs, and again, more layoffs. There's been permanent layoffs also, in a shutdown. Also, think of how it would affect the airlines and the cruise industry and all of these, and the group business that right now is starting. I know last week I spoke to a few of my friends in catering convention services. They're starting to book some business, so our frustration, Miguel, and for any of the concierges that are on this call, the hotels are doing the right thing. The employees are all wearing masks. The guests, a lot of guests don't want to wear masks when they walk into the hotel. So you've got, all the brands that have their signage everywhere. And a lot of I do know some of our general managers are telling them if they're not going to be able to wear a facial covering, they're going to have to leave. So we really have to continue to be strict, but a shutdown is definitely not the way to go. And I think that we just need, I think we need conversations like this together, with our partners about the importance of protecting. Look, the virus is spiking. It's not a good time right now. We have to be very, very careful. And I know the outdoor part, Ceci, is very complicated because people are walking around and they don't really, I was in the Gables, I was driving through the Gables where we live, and some were wearing masks walking down Miracle Island, some weren't. So but as far as what's going on inside the hotels, we really need everybody's help because our hotels are doing the right thing.
Thank you. Gisela?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that for us, obviously driving demand is highly paramount and critical because we understand that the more demand that we can drive, the more visitors that will come and stay, and then the more staff that can come back. So for us, that's a very high priority. And on the same token, the same way that we're asking visitors to come here, get on a plane, we have to also do the same thing. So, for us on the sales teams, both on the convention sales and on our leisure teams, we're hitting the road next month and we're going to see clients because we have to further, that we're open and we're ready for, for business. But, we have to also be the first ones to kind of say, be okay to get on a flight because that's exactly what we're asking people to do. So for us, this is obviously, very, very important. And we have to, as Ceci mentioned, we have to be leaders. And these are the things that we need to, and we are going to do, and we are doing.
Okay. I know that some flights are very lax in their protocols as far as face masks and social distancing. Certain airlines don't even honor any of that whatsoever. They're just packing as many people into the planes as possible. I see the financial aspect of it. I mean, if a plane's flying at a loss, why fly the plane? Because at the end of the day, it is a business. But at the same time, lives matter. And if you're not taking the safety precautions enhanced, then you potentially in those 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hours that someone's on that plane recirculating the air, although you have HEPA filters and a whole slew of different type of filtration systems set up, you still run the risk of possible infection or receiving some type of infection from the virus. So over the last few days, starting the 30th forward, we've had some big issues with social injustice and Black Lives Matter, and it's been rampant throughout the entire nation. I know that Miami at one point many years ago had a challenge that's overcome, and I think they've done a very good thing. Their protocols in place have been very just and liberal towards everyone. I'm going to go back to the beginning of the list. Ceci, what do you feel? Have we done everything we can do, and our government is adhering to all the policies, and at the same time keeping law and order in place?
I think it's a unique time in history with the COVID and the Black Lives Matter. Here you have the COVID, which is all about distancing, and then you have your civil liberties, and you have your right to assembly. Right. So it's counterindicative again. Let's do social distancing, but there's a lot of protests and they have every right to do that. We've seen it very peacefully done in Miami Beach. We've seen our police department take a lead on working with the community. I we have a huge amount of guests from the Black community. That's a big market that comes down to Miami Beach. We haven't had any problems that we see. And we have seen some really, like I said, real peaceful, tributes to Juneteenth, very peaceful, working with our community, very peacefully working with our restaurants and hotels. So when it comes to Miami Beach, we haven't had a problem, other than the fact that people are a little concerned that the groups of people coming together for the protests are passing the COVID virus onto each other. And then of course they're coming to our hotels and they're coming to our restaurants, and then we have to protect our staff members. Right. So that, I think, is the biggest issue, is just that critical mass of people coming together at a time when we're pushing for social distancing.
True. Over the past few weeks, last few weekends, I've been on the beach quite a few times, and you do see a very strong presence from Miami Beach Police, and they do everything possible to diffuse any situation whatsoever. Now, question for you: you do have Ocean Drive closed. Is that going to be done indefinitely? Is there a time frame, or they're just taking it day by day?
Now, this is very interesting. A lot of people think that it's been closed for a bicycle pedestrian friendly change. It really was sponsored by Commissioner Gongora to be a restaurant recovery program. So it's there to make sure, and we also, keep in mind that we thought the restaurants were going to be open weeks before the hotels were open, not days. And it turned out to be just days. So the idea was expand the footprint, let the restaurants have an opportunity to get as many people as they can, since they had a 50% reduction in occupancy, and hire back the staff that they can, and also to pay their rent and all their bills. So that was kind of the idea. And then a lot of people are thinking, well, this is great for bicycling and this is great for pedestrian. We're looking at how that's working, right? The hotels now being open have made a difference for the restaurants. Think about the fact that we have between 10 million and 15 million people that come to Ocean Drive every year. Locals, not even Miami Beach locals, but locals from the county and nearby aren't going to pick up that slack. So there is an economic stimulus that we have to focus on, and we have to focus on if it's working or not working. And also keep in mind that we only close Ocean Drive and expand the sidewalks once a year. Everybody thinks we constantly are doing it. We do it once a year for New Year's Eve. So there was no formula to do it long term. So we're looking at how valet is being affected, the loss of parking is being affected, what is the best way to do it long term. We're looking at least, I'm projecting that it's going to go till the end of the fiscal year, since they waived the Sidewalk Cafe fee permits till the end of the fiscal year. So I'm measuring it with that, and we've met with the city saying, is one lane better? Why don't we take this opportunity to really look at the design and urban planning, to not just off the top of your head saying this sounds like a great idea, but really thoughtfully look at, from the perspective of fire, police, public works, economics, is everything happening? They're starting to get more business, mostly not because the street is closed, mostly because the hotels are open, and they're starting to get more tourists and more people from hotels coming. I have 50 restaurants. 50 restaurants are not going to be supported by the local market. They're just not. 50 restaurants, 35 hotels on 1 mile, one half of 1 mile. And it's a huge economic boom to the city. It brings in a huge percentage of the resort taxes citywide, one half of 1 mile. So we have to be careful with it. It's delicate, and it needs the thought to put into it if we're going to do this long term. Not saying we're not going to do it long term, not saying that it's a problem right now. We're just looking at all of the different aspects. I do see bicycles whizzing by, rollerbladers whizzing by. I feel like I'm going to get knocked down anytime. So there has to be a thought of how we can share that area and bring the customer base to where they feel comfortable that they're not going to walk out of a cafe and get knocked down by a bicycle. I'm also seeing scooters, because it is a street. So I think we need to do maybe a better job, motor scooters, better job letting people know that they can't ride their motor scooters down. They see bicycles and they have a scooter and they're down, and it's what you do when you come down to Miami Beach. So I think it's changing a culture, communicating that very well, and making sure that the restaurants are actually recovering and it's not hurting the business. So, but we're putting our heads around all of that, because it's lovely. It's lovely. It really is.
When's the end of the fiscal year? What's the
September
date?
31st, September, the end of September. The last day.
End of September. Okay.
Mhm.
And then I feel the pain of these restaurants, not so much restaurants, but the hotels where a guest is checking in and they have to walk literally a block and a half, possibly two, schlepping all their luggage because there's no sense of arrival because it's completely cordoned off. And imagine if it's pouring rain during that time period. That's, yeah, I definitely think that there needs to be a design set up. Yes, Wendy, go ahead.
So I wanted to just talk a little bit about, these guidelines and what you're mentioning, Miguel. I heard from a lot of concierges when they were getting ready to open the hotels on the valet situation. And I think that we have to be very flexible and, feel free to contact me. Like, for example, a couple of the properties, just like you're saying, they'll get wet. Literally, they'll get wet if they get out of their car without valet there. I said keep valet, because if it's going to be an uncomfortable situation for the guests, I am sure that the county would not want that to happen. So I think flexibility and just if asking me what can you help me with this, I'm happy to do that with your concierges, because there's different situations with valet, and some of the other guidelines that can be kind of worked on and dealt with. Dealt with.
Yeah, I mean,
we don't want anyone to get wet. We don't want anyone
of
to
course
get
not.
wet.
And I think, and it leads to the scooters and the cycles. You go from a scooter, then you go to a motorcycle. Then at what point do you stop it? I mean, obviously a car is a car, but if they did have, and Ceci, you nailed it right on the head as well as Wendy. If they did have some means where it was just one-way traffic, one lane, northbound to southbound, with some bleeders where you can get off and you don't have to do the full 15 to 5 and then come off. You would have accessibility for the valet, you'd have accessibility for the hotels, but yet you'd still have the northbound lane and that parking lane that existed before as mobility, or push it back somewhat where the closer lane to the but it's got to be worked out. I mean, you're going in, I think it's a step in the right direction, but as the volume increases and business increases, they need to really revisit that, because it's going to be a challenge moving forward, especially when we get into the dread of the summer weather where it rains in the afternoons and early evenings. People are going to get soaked. And that's the first impression they get of South Beach and Ocean Drive. It's not the best.
Well, even anywhere that has sidewalk cafe and has expanded, because it's all over the county that they've taken, sidewalks and streets and expanded. Mm-hmm. But think about what usually happens when it rains. And it rains maybe 150 days out of the year. It rains 150 days out of the year. Usually, if you're on a sidewalk cafe and it rains, you run inside and they accommodate you. You can't go inside because there's only so much seating that you can do, and they have a 50% capacity. So now what do? You have an expanded sidewalk cafe, and not just Ocean Drive, but that's an example, right? Because that's where I've got all those going on. But mm-hmm. What do you do when it rains? Mostly, you have the customer leaves without paying, right? Because there's nothing you can do. The umbrellas are limited to like 10 feet. There's only so many people that can sit together in a table, so you can't crowd in. This is a big challenge. More than anything, the challenge is for the sidewalk cafe and outdoor seating is rain.
True. And again,
also remember, it's going to change. So don't forget, it's going to get better once the virus calms down. And, we're not even in phase 3 yet, as you know. So the more everybody behaves, the better you'll be able to have more than 50% occupancy inside the restaurants, and and us for 50% in our banquet ballrooms and everything. That'll get better.
That'll help a lot. Once this 50% capacity changes, it will help a lot.
True. Wendy, going back to you, and I don't mean to, I'm sorry for going off the original question. Regarding social injustice and Black Lives Matter, has that affected the hotel industry at all in the area? I know traveling around Miami is somewhat difficult with all the blockage, the road stops, as well as the curfews. I mean, coming to and from the beach has been quite a hassle, depending on the time of day.
I mean, I think, as everybody's said, I think that I say to myself, it's about time that this is happening. I mean, I'm really actually, although it's a very challenging time right now, but I think in the long run, like for, our kids who are not kids anymore, but they're kids, I think that there's just a lot of positive initiatives and conversations evolving as we speak. So on that respect, I'm looking forward to even more change and really bettering our community together. But I think the only problem, just because I think a lot of the hotels are not open and whatnot, is the curfew, for employees. There was a little problem in the beginning when the employees were going, leaving work after the curfew or coming in early in the morning. They had some problems, especially in the downtown Brickell area. Like they weren't letting them go to work. It was kind of, well, we corrected that, but those are the kind of challenges that we had. I mean, everybody, where you are, downtown, I mean, there was just, I get text messages from some of my board members that they couldn't air on 95. And what I think is a shame is that I don't think we have enough alerts. I don't know if you on our phones of when,
True.
we send out the notices when the peaceful protests are taking place, right, the day before. But it would be nice if we had like a Google alert if we're in the car, just to know when they're going to start shutting down lanes and all that. I think that would be very helpful and also for our guests that are starting to come in.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of heading westbound on the Venetian a couple of weeks ago on a Saturday, and I thought it was just a bridge up. It was very close to the half-hour mark, so I figured, okay, the bridge went up early. Maybe his watch was off. I don't know. But then 15 minutes later, the bridge wasn't moving, and I realized that this bridge is not coming back down. They had literally closed the bridge, and I'm stuck, and there was no way because of the median to get out and go back until finally a few people did their due diligence. Yes, Ceci.
So I will tell you, the concierges and the industry people should subscribe to the Miami Beach text messaging, because they give you traffic alerts and you get a text. And as soon as I get the text, and I have a WhatsApp chat group for all of my managers on Ocean Drive, so that's how I get the information out to them immediately. But the city of Miami Beach does a very, very good job sending out text message alerts about things like the bridges are shutting down, the streets are shutting down. That's how I found out about the curfew. Before it was posted anywhere and before I got an email, I got a text message, and I was able to get that communication out to the industry. So especially for a concierge, right?
Definitely.
Know those kind of alerts that are happening, that's really important. But the city of Miami Beach does a great, great job. And I'll send you that information.
We'll put it on our post notes. Gisela?
Yeah, so what I wanted to add is, great question. And this is something that's obviously very important to so many people around the world, right? So from our perspective, early on, there is actually a statement on our website, right when you get to the homepage of the website, that really talks about some of the work that we are already doing, because it is the importance of, inclusiveness. And this is also important for travelers. So, there's already been quite a bit of work that we've done to further support that. And there's also some other programs that we're looking to really develop, and initiatives to really continue to be really intentional about, diversity in mind. So, obviously that's something that's very close to us all. And we live in Miami. We're such a culturally diverse community.
True.
So, we get that, we understand that, and we do celebrate that, but, there's always a way to continue to do more, and can help to further contribute to that very important conversation.
Thank you very much. So some restaurants are following the guidelines, as you saw this weekend. For those of you who read the Herald or watched any of the local news channels, 3 restaurants were closed on Saturday evening by the county. They've since been able to reopen because they weren't following the protocols set forth by the county. Your thoughts on this, Ceci?
I tell you that Miami's a party town. It is really, really hard for people who are coming to Miami for vacation to say, you can only go and sit down in a restaurant. You cannot congregate at the bar. You can't dance. You can't hear music. You can't do any of that. That's what they come for. So it's really difficult. And again, we're in the hospitality industry. It's hard for us to tell our guests, you sit down and you can't do anything. It's very difficult to do that. But I think that's kind of what I'm finding also. If they can't do it inside, they're doing it outside. And that is where you're having people with sitting in cars with their boom boxes. I don't know, is boom box like an old person's term, I think.
But we understand. I get it. So boombox, for those of you who don't know, it's a large radio, 2 speakers, cassette player, if you've ever seen one of those, and an AM/FM device. Yeah,
I had one, whatever. But
Yeah.
they're sitting out
I
there
used
with
to
their
carry it on my shoulder.
fires, and they're getting very expensive bottles of liquor. So it's not the spring break crowd. It's not the kids that have like a 6-pack of beer. People are here and they want a party. They came here for the party. This is a party place. Like I said, it's like we are social intimacy. We are not social distancing. And it's such a challenge for a restaurant that is known as a bar. For example, Mango's isn't even open. They're not going to open till July. They know that people are going to come to Mango's and want to party and dance. So he's not even opening yet, right? That's not his model. And he's not the only one. There's a lot of them that are out there. They are opening because they have to pay the rent and they want to get their employees back. But switching from a sit down fine dining, right, or from a big party place to a sit down fine dining is super challenging. It's really hard. You have to do it. Right. And the restaurants need to be following those protocols, and letting it get out of hand is probably on them, but it's hard. It's not easy. It's not easy.
I think it's a very fine line. Again, you're telling a restaurant to mitigate your footprint by 50%, but yet your fixed costs are the same. Your food costs, your rent, your light, your gas, your bill, everything's the same. So you try and bend the rules a little bit, and then you get dinged by the city saying, hey, you're not following the guidelines, but yet I'm trying to stay open. And it's very difficult. Wendy?
You're muted.
Wendy, you're muted.
I was thinking maybe David could open like just allow 10 people in there. That would be fun. Yeah, no, I think the restaurant bars are that they're very challenged, and that's where all this what do I call it, riffraff is coming, and it's kind of affecting just the whole destination. It's understandable. It's hard, and I know that originally they weren't going to have any gathering at the bar. Remember, there was going to be nothing, not even stools, nothing. And I kind of in my mind just seeing what's going on. I mean, maybe. I don't know. That's when you're right. You can't, it's behavior. How do you can't, it's a very tough thing to manage, so just I'm hoping that, the restaurants are able to, calm down a little bit, in the bars and the restaurants, because that will help us get to where we need to be also. It's tough. It's not easy. It's not easy, but we want to open up all our hotels and all our, everything, all the cultural organizations, right, Gisela? I mean, we want to get everybody open up and whatever we can do to help with that,
Yep. True. I mean, it's a good problem to have. I mean, I traveled South Beach. I traveled Wynwood area, the design district, and business is booming. You've got traffic in the street. People are going to restaurants. There are lines. People are waiting. So it's a good problem to have, not a bad one. So we just got to get through it. Gisela, your input on this? You're muted.
Sorry, I'm just echoing, Ceci and Wendy's comments. That's a tough situation because, you're really trying to go against, we're very social. So it's very difficult. But then on the other side, you're really trying to balance kind of that spread of the virus. So I just know that, as businesses here, I think they're very creative, and, maybe they'll come up with some sort of creative solution in the meantime, and being innovative. We're seeing that with many of our hotels, that they've had to be very innovative in many things. So I just stopped to think about that they maybe just have to think this through a little bit further, but it's really a tough situation, really tough.
I will tell you, especially on Ocean Drive, that our restaurants are trying really, really hard to follow all of the protocols, because they know that's the first place you think of that is going to be the party. And they're just completely like, we are not going to be the poster child of not following protocols. So it's interesting that the restaurants were not on Miami Beach. Miami Beach is being really, really careful because we're the headline. Right? We're the headline internationally if something happens. 3 restaurants were closed. It wasn't a big headline international because they were off the beach. If it happened on Miami Beach, you absolutely are going to hear it in Europe. You're going to hear it all over the place. So they are being very, very careful because they know that.
True.
And I think, I'm sorry. Wendy. I think that, we're all data driven, right? This industry is one big data box. And I think that as long as the numbers are up, we really, really have to be careful. We have to really just kind of hunker down a little bit in some of these, places that are having challenges. And like Gisela said, there's a lot of creativity. There's a lot of open space. It's just, until the numbers go down, we're not going to get all our employees back. We're not going to get the business. I just feel really strongly about that. I know you all agree.
Agreed, 100%. One question that Tom Pentas had asked, how many concierges are back? I can answer that question. Not too many. Unfortunately, the way the business is set up, they're looking for their essential workers for the time being. A lot of the properties on the beach have experienced some great occupancies, although they're still at 50% of their normal by the county standards. But the hotels that are inlying, be it the mainland and outskirts of the city that don't have beachfront, are probably pacing at about 13 to 20% on average. So it wouldn't make sense to have your entire allotment of staff. So you probably have 1 or 2 desk clerks where you normally would have 5 or 6 or 8 or 10, depending on the size of your property, and you'd have 1 or 2 concierges. Some properties have brought on the concierge staff, but little by little, and Gisela had mentioned it too earlier, as time goes on into the remainder of June and into July, as hotels open and business starts to progress and the cruisers come back and the airline traffic loads increase and the international travel increases, I think we'll get back to that normal that we're so accustomed to. But right now, unfortunately, there's only a few, and those that are working are doing a hell of a job, and I applaud them immensely for their hard work and taking the time out to taking time away from their families and putting themselves at risk, because COVID's still here. One way or the other, you're still at risk of going out to work and doing what you do best. So thank you to all of them. Now, here's the $1 million question for you, ladies. We're a week and a half away from Independence Day, July 4th, one of the probably most celebrated places either on Miami Beach or Bayfront Park or Bayside or the Biltmore Hotel in Coral Gables or even the Sunny Isles area and even Key Biscayne. And we have not received any word from any of the municipalities of what's happening with July 4th, the festivities during the day, as well as the fireworks at night. So let's start with you, Ceci.
So I will tell you that was one of my immediate focus when, we started shutting down. And one of the very first things that I started talking about when we were opening up, what about July 4th? All right, we can't do this. We can't do Memorial Day weekend. We're not going to do anything. We're going to slowly open. Let's at least make sure that we can have fireworks for 4th of July. And I got, let's measure it from the city. Let's take a look at it. They have no special events and they're not giving any special event permits, but really up until a couple of weeks ago, it wasn't completely out of the question. When the spike started and the cases started increasing, they said, absolutely not. We're not doing any special events. No excuse for anybody to come into crowds that we have done, right, to incentivize. So no special events on Miami Beach, no fireworks on Miami Beach. It's heartbreaking because we want to celebrate our Independence Day. It's important that the city celebrate our Independence Day. We don't want to lose that, patriotic holiday that we recognize who we are as a country. And it's really hard, but there is no fireworks happening. I had a big concert last year in Lummis Park, and we were hoping that it was going to be the first, a traditional first with, an orchestra and opera singers, but that's all put on hold for right now. Safety is really important, but what's going to happen on the other side is we have hotel guests that are going to be disappointed. Right? They're expecting something. If it is happening in other parts of the country, people are going to jump in their cars and they're going to go over there. I don't know. I think, Wendy, you were right. The county they're waiting till the last minute. They don't want a critical mass. So maybe they'll do something, but it'll be at the last minute. So people aren't going to make plans and come over because the government doesn't want to be responsible, or the city doesn't want to be responsible for being the one that brings a huge group of people. And that's, a petri dish of, contamination. They want to be really careful. So public health is really important, and they don't want to be the ones out there saying we're doing something that's contraindicative to what would be publicly healthy. So that is where we're at with the 4th of July. It's heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking. I do think you're going to find rogue people going like they do every year, but I think you're going to find more than previous years, rogue people that are just going to go out there and do it on their own. And you're going to see probably some kind of nice fireworks, but are privately done under the radar without a permit.
Now, will the beaches be closed at 9 o'clock at night so they cannot go out onto the beach, or they're going to be doing it on the streets?
Right now closed at 8 o'clock at night. The beaches are right now closed at 8 o'clock at night. And that's hard because the sun's still out. Nobody understands why they have to leave the beach. But there's ambassadors and there are people helping. They had to pick a number. They picked 8.
Okay. And then next question, it's a 2-part question. You've got July 4th is you've got the fireworks, but then more so you've got the beach goers throughout the day. Do you foresee it possibly being another Memorial Day, since Memorial Day we were closed? Meaning the beach goers and all the people with the coolers and going out to the beach and overpopulating and doing what they want to do and then not wanting to leave at 8 o'clock?
They missed their picnic for Memorial Day weekend. Are they saving up and going to do it for the 4th of July instead? I love this phrase. I used to hate it when I first heard it. Now I absolutely love it. We don't know what we don't know.
True.
We don't know what we don't know.
True.
So we have no projections about 4th of July. We know there are going to be guests that are in our hotels. We can see, and Wendy and Giselle could probably talk more about the occupancy rate, but is the drivable public coming over to South Beach like they did for Memorial Day weekend before? We don't know that. And we don't know. With the beaches being closed at 8 o'clock early, I don't know if that's filtering through. I don't know if I'm going to have a street crowd or a park crowd. I don't know. Washington Avenue is set to close either partially or completely as well so that their restaurants can expand. We don't know what kind of people are going to be, coming towards that. Every weekend it's getting better out there as far as like a number of people going to the restaurants and the number of people that are coming back to Ocean Drive. I don't know. It's better in terms of the industry and business making, more money and able to recover. It's not better as far as when the city's looking at a critical mass of people on the street and how are they dealing with public health. So, they're both working kind of against each other.
I know the hotels that I've spoken to are at capacity for that weekend because it's going to be a popular weekend. So it's we'll see what transpires. Wendy?
Yeah, and I think the hotels that have pools are busy. Yeah, absolutely, Miguel. Most of the with regard to the fireworks, do you know if any through your colleagues across the country are there any fireworks planned in any of the big cities or anything?
That's a good question that I'll pose
I haven't
to them
heard.
Today.
Yeah. But I think that, listen, I think watching last year's fireworks on a big digital screen is fine for me. You know what I mean? And I was reminded of, remember that dessert, the baked Alaska?
Yes.
We could put sparkle, because I think we've got, once again, safety, security. So, but I do think there's opportunity to have, show firework. I don't know what's going on across the world with firework. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
It'd be
know.
interesting to see.
Yeah.
Giselle, you had spoken to the county.
Yeah, well, I wanted to add that I connected with the Downtown Development Authority this morning just to check in with them because, as you know, they're home to the fireworks at Bayfront Park, which the indication is they have not yet made a decision, and a decision will be made further on in the week. So they've not, like Ceci and Wendy were saying, I think they're just holding off to the last moment, but that's not been confirmed yet. That's not been confirmed.
I just received a message from Jerry Jandovitz at Williams Island. Fort Lauderdale, I guess Broward County is already promoting that they will have fireworks on July 4th. So I guess it depends on the municipality and how they regulate that. I mean, you could certainly, good thing about fireworks is all you have to do is one thing, look up. Regardless of where you are, you just look up. You don't need to be on a beach. You don't need to be on a boat. You don't need to be anywhere. Just in a good vantage point, look up, enjoy the fireworks, enjoy the company you're with, the family you're with, and go from there.
You have fireworks behind you, Miguel. It's beautiful.
Right? There you go.
Beautiful.
You can watch it on YouTube. It's a beautiful thing and easy. So, ladies, I've got that. My watch tells me we're 7 minutes in. We have any questions from the audience that would like us to address? I've opened the question portal. Feel free to answer, either put in chat or questions. I will monitor it and see if anybody has any questions. There was a comment by one of our colleagues asking about the text text update on Miami Beach. We will put that in the post notes. For those of you who just joined us recently, everything you're seeing is being video recorded. It will be added into as a link that you can watch at your leisure, as well as the presentation that Gisela made earlier, and any links. I know that Wendy had sent us a link from Channel 7 regarding the one hotel. Because of the bandwidth of the video, I can't play it here because you probably wouldn't see any of it. It's that intense. So I'll go ahead and send that as a link as well. Anyone questions-wise? Oh, hold on. I got 3 questions here. Question from Jerry Janovitz. How is the Miami Spice program going, Gisela?
So thanks for the question. We've got about 135 restaurants that have signed up so far. So just as a reference, last year we had like 175. So again, not all restaurants are open. So so we continue to get inquiries on that. So we're very excited about that. I think bringing opening up our restaurant program early was something that it was important for us to do, because we also, we're residents. We can still also go out and patronize our restaurants. So it's not only the visitors. So, as you know, Miami Spice is a big locals program. So for us, it was really important to bring it on. And we're hopeful over the next couple of weeks that more will sign on. Perfect.
And it's going to last throughout the remainder of the year?
Through September 30.
So September 30. Okay.
4 months. Spice will be, so get your stretchy pants out.
There you go. And work on the diet plans after Spice, not now. Now you have to enjoy it. Enjoy it in moderation.
I just want to thank you for doing this, and everybody that are putting on webinars, the city, the Hotel Association, the Chamber, the Concierge Association. These are so important because we're used to getting together and networking and getting more information and having that synergy. And by hosting these panels, we're getting that, right? We can't just isolate ourselves in our home offices because you can't brainstorm with yourself, and you can't there's no synergy going on there. But the more communication and the collaboration, the more we're hearing from different areas and different parts of the industry. You always get best practices, what's working, what's not working. Somebody is always learning something to help better themselves and help better the community. And I just really want to, thank you for putting this on. And I just want to highlight how important it is to participate. I think that you have almost 100 people that
Correct.
have signed on. It's really
Correct.
important. And, not that I'm on the panel, I attend more than anybody else. And, you can almost overload, but that transferring it from one, like when I'm on the Florida Restaurant Lodging Association meeting, and then I'm on the Concierge meeting, and then the Hotel Association meeting, all of that information ends up starting to, streamline and center, and the good stuff ends up coming out, and it's the best practices, and it's really, really helpful. So anyway, I appreciate you for inviting me to be part of the panel with these wonderful ladies, my counterparts and colleagues, and it's always great to see everybody.
And it's really fun. I think they're going to keep on going too. I think we're going to keep on doing it. We're trying to figure out when our next physical event is going to be. We had to cancel InKey, which was sad because that's our hourly employee. We have 900, so we're postponing that probably till next year because it's just so it's sad. But this is great. This is great.
True. Beats driving, parking, having to find a babysitter. It's easy. You just turn it on and you're here. It's a little stressful for us because we have to put it together. Everyone else just shows up or not, or watches the recording. Steffi Pascal did respond back that in Fort Lauderdale, they will not allow groups to conjugate, so you can watch it from your porch or elsewhere. So thank you very much, Steffi, for that feedback. And thank you for Carla for your information. She had mentioned that she wants to do a network for small businesses. We'll certainly look into that. Jerry, as well as, one second, let me zoom up. Felipe said, thank you very much for all your work. And lastly, I had Mr. Steingold. Marshall Steingold also thanked us for all the work that we're doing as well. So my clock says 2 minutes till. Oh, Felipe also thanked us as well. I just want to say some few parting things for our members that are out there. As you know, May was our nomination month, and June was our election month. But obviously, we can't get together to meet with each other, engage, share ideas, allow you to run for office and express your views in an appropriate platform. So the board has decided to extend that until October for the time being. So September will be the nominations month and October will be the elections. Until then, the current board stands as is. And then if and when that time becomes available, we will certainly move forward and look for a new board or new individuals that are interested in leading our organization into the future. I want to thank all of our panelists, Ceci, Wendy, and Gisela. You've been amazing as always. Thank you very much for all your hard work and input. I'm sure this was very educational. It was educational for me to learn a lot of things, and hopefully the 90 plus that were joined, or actually 100 plus, they're starting to drop off now. We'll enjoy it, and if they weren't able to join us live, again, we're recording this for future reference. One thing that I read and that it stands out with me, and this is what probably motivates me on a day-to-day basis: crisis does not define who you are. It reveals your abilities. And what I mean by that is you don't know your potential until it hits you. Like the great Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan until they get hit in the face. Then you realize if the plan works or not. But I think we've done an amazing job to all the concierges that have made it out there, to all the hospitality professionals, all of our partners, the Bureau, the Hotel Association, as well as Ceci. You guys have done an amazing job in putting this all together and keeping it all together and keeping us informed. And to all of you that listened to us and put up with me for the last hour, thank you very much. Hopefully we'll have another one in 30 days' time with even more good news to share. And until then, I thank you all and enjoy your day.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Bye, ladies.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Our goal is to inspire travel. We want to expose you to what Miami and South Florida has to offer. From Key Biscayne to Coconut Grove, South Beach to Calle Ocho, and everywhere in between. Miami is a vibrant city and offers a wide array of popular attractions and venues. Come join us.